back to back. And no, I'm not referencing Drake. I'm referencing RCB with their second title in a row. Virat Kohli with his fastest 50 and highest IPL playoff score. Unbelievable chase by him. The chase master, only chasing a mid 150 score. The bowlers really did good draw at the bit in the power play. I think the match was pretty much done early on in the game, but Virat Kohli had to finish it off in style. What a final and what a season for RCB.
What a season for RCB. They go back to back. They went 18 years without a title and they come out with 2-2. They're making up for lost ground. And what a final it was. It ended up being a walk in the park. GT didn't really look like they had a shot right from the get-go, with Hazlewood taking out Shubman Gill early. Sai Sudarshan went early. And then GT all of a sudden changing their top order, putting in Sindhu at number 3, indications that they were already on the back foot, and they just stayed on the back foot the entire game. RCB stormed to a victory. Virat Kohli played a classic Virat Kohli. I think we've said classic Virat Kohli knock so many times this IPL, but we saw another classic Virat Kohli chase. It was a perfect target for him. The calculator came out and he went to work. For those of you who haven't heard of us, welcome back to the In Between Overs podcast, where your host of the day's play. I'm Taran.
And I'm Ishaan.
Okay, so let's unpack that final. RCB, they go back to back. Is this the beginning of a dynasty?
It is, and Rajat Patidar has sort of that fate with him. What a captaincy performance, not only this season, last season as well. I think in order for the dynasty conversation to come about, you do have to win back-to-back titles. It's not you win a title, you get close to one in the next season and you maybe win the next one. No, it is back-to-back. Only 2 other teams have done it in IPL history. Obviously, Mumbai Indians under Rohit Sharma, and then Chennai Super Kings under Mahendra Singh Dhoni. And we know those teams. We know the players of those teams, the Suresh Rainas of the world, the Skies and the Rohit Sharmas of the world. We should now always consider in the pantheon of IPL history this RCB team for the last 2 seasons. They may not have the big flashy names or the big flashy captaincy name, but what they've sort of brought in with, a lot of people have written off Boovy. Hazelwood's, obviously forte is being red ball cricket. Him performing well this T20 in any sort of this T20 IPL season. I think they were able to get some really good players, and yep, this is definitely the start of a dynasty for me.
I still remember when we discussed the IPL preseason in 2025, last season, where we were ripping RCB's choice for their bowling attack when they selected an aging Booby, they selected injury-prone Hazlewood, and no quality spinner in their attack, a bunch of young Indian fast bowlers. We didn't really talk too much of the batting because the batting had something there, but I remember we were like, what the heck is this bowling attack? How are they going to survive in the Chinnaswamy, where it's a road? You get absolutely slapped. But here we are, 2 full seasons later, and RCB is laughing at everyone while holding 2 championships.
Yeah, unreal. And as you mentioned, again, the players not being, too flashy, but it came down to skill and execution. And when you have players who, for example, Rajat Patidar being a bastion of domestic test cricket, and you have obviously Bhuveshwar Kumar, who is, known for his test cricket abilities, Hazelwood, who's known for his test cricket abilities. When you have these players, I think maybe T20 cricket is moving towards, obviously, the big runs and all that stuff. But from a bowling perspective, it's really understanding how to get best from whatever wicket is in front of you and how skillful you are to execute on that wicket. I think that is what really went for RCB this season. Obviously, the batting and the clutchness of, Virat Kohli, and then obviously Pandya as well. But I think the bowling that RCB have was unreal. Boovy with so many wickets this season. Hazelwood coming clutch when he wanted to. Kunal Pandya obviously getting wickets as well, as I mentioned. I think their bowling was something that was maybe a little overshadowed by obviously the flashy batting that they've always had. But, you know, in order to be considered a dynasty, you need fit bowlers, you need bowlers who are able to perform and execute, and RCB definitely have that.
One of the underrated bowlers in their attack, Rashik Salam. I think we spoke about him on a couple pods ago, and he was the sort of the under the radar performer throughout the tournament for them. He came in and he did whatever he could do given his own talent and capabilities, and he did it at a very, very high level, which is something they needed, especially after last year where they had Yash Dayal, who put up a great performance, and then he got injured. So I believe he was out for the season, and so they lacked that third fast bowler, and they found it in Rashid Salam, and he was amazing through the tournament. And they were also boosted by the fact that they found some Indian batters, which allowed them to play Duffy, who initially played primarily as a replacement for Hazlewood.
Yeah, Duffy as well, being such a great inclusion, great shout out there. He was able to sort of keep up with the pace, keep up with the bowling, and execute as such. It was great to see. Now, do you foresee maybe looking at next season for this, for RCB to be the team that actually wins back to back to back? Where do you see any potential changes coming from the squad, or do you think it's more or less look at them stay healthy, or should they look to target any certain positions?
All right, so let's unpack the game now, the actual final. So Patidar won the toss, decided to bowl first. RCB clearly focused on chasing in that final, and GT were forced to have a bat. It seemed like I feel like I heard it on comms where both teams wanted to bowl first because it seemed like a tacky wicket as soon as RCB got the ball, you could see there was something in there, right? So I feel like the toss definitely had an impact on the game because we saw GT. I don't want to say crumble, but the way that they've been so dependent on their top order, it's like if their top order is two or three down in the first six overs, is almost like a crumble for them because they literally don't have much after that. And it showed once again where they sort of limped their way to 155, courtesy a good knock from Washi Sundar. Nothing extraordinary, but he couldn't because he needed to hold an end, and he did whatever he could to drag GT to something of a defendable target.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point there about the surface, in particular, the tackiness of it, of being a little unpredictable. I think sort of that's the reason why they wanted to bowl first, kind of see how the opposition fared against the wicket, sort of what would happen, what pace should they play in. 155, 160 was never enough. It was never enough. We've talked about the scores in this IPL. We know how talented the batting is, especially against this opposition. It was never enough. And in my particular eyes, when GT started losing wickets, I really did feel that when number 3, Joss Butler, did not come in, was when GT was definitely on the back foot. I think RCB sensed there was blood in the water, and sort of Gujarat protecting Joss Butler by sending out an inexperienced player in replacement of him. We've always talked about the GT top 3. I think that definitely sent the signals to both squads that GT was definitely, defensive, and they're gonna see, where their opportunity is this game to win. Whereas at RCB kind of realized that this was time to capitalize, and the wickets, to your point, Tron, just started to tumble.
Yeah, that tactical change that they made, I didn't even realize it until after the game, where you mentioned to me that Josh Butler came at number 4 and not at number 3. Then I did a double take. I was like, oh, shoot, he did. And that one change itself talks a lot about GT's mindset and their approach, because that was not aggressive change by any means. Sindhu hasn't had much to speak of for the entire tournament. He's just been able to hold his place, I believe, because they don't really have many options. Shah Rukh Khan hasn't done much this entire tournament for them. And so because they didn't have much options, they kept him in the team, and it seemed like they were trying to lengthen that middle order and put Josh Butler at number 4, when Josh Butler is a clear top order batsman. He bats better against pace bowlers, and perhaps there was an opportunity for him to take the attack against Hazlewood and Bhuvi and Rashid Salam and put some pressure back on RCB. And so instead of fighting fire with fire, they decided to take a step back and try to like douse whatever fire that RCB was putting out. And clearly it backfired. No pun intended.
No, clearly did. Going towards the chase now, RCB obviously looking at the 155 score. I'm sure, they felt good in the dressing room. It did seem like, apart from maybe 1 or 2 wickets or some quick 1, 2 wickets in sort of the middle of the game, it was never a doubt, I think, in anyone's minds that as long as Virat Kohli was there, RCB had this chase down right.
Well, like I said, like we talked about at the start of the pod, it was like it was a tailor-made situation for Virat Kohli, and as long as he was at the crease, you felt like RCB's going home. And he made sure of that. He wasn't leaving the ground when Shubman Gill grasped that opportunity, which is debatable whether it was a catch or not. It looked like a catch to me, but the umps thought otherwise. And you could see that the entire innings, he was so focused, so in the zone of making sure that RCB crossed the line. And as long as he was there, you just had a feeling, even though GT, Rashid Khan did whatever he could. He took 2 and an over. He tried to create some sort of panic in that RCB lineup, but we're talking about defending champions. We're talking about now they've been there. They know how to weather the storms, and we saw that again. Everybody chipped in with a bat. Even Tim David's innings of 20 odd. He hasn't done much since the beginning of the tournament, but that was a great knock because it got them that much closer to the target. And when he left, it was a walk in the park. They just needed a steady hand from whoever's at the crease, and they got that.
Yeah, and then they got that. It was, again, a classic chase by RCB, by Virat Kohli in particular, and very poetic that, you know, he for someone who has put, I think it was 18 years, 17 years into this franchise, now actually getting the opportunity to chase a title for them, then to actually hit the winning runs in a six. I think it must have definitely, been cathartic. Obviously, the championship last season was, obviously a feeling in itself, but I think him actually pushing RCB over the line was, I think, something that he's probably envisioned for a very long time. And look, he was able to do it.
Yeah, and so RCB joins CSK and Mumbai Indians as the only franchises to go back to back in the IPL. We haven't had a three-peat yet. It's happened in other sports championships like the NBA, but we haven't seen that in cricket as of yet. Actually, we've seen it in the 100 with the Oval Invincibles, who are now no longer that. I believe it's MI London, if I'm not mistaken. That's a separate
London.
conversation. Yeah, but they got a three-peat, and it's definitely not easy to win one championship. To win two is fantastic. To win three, definitely they would be considered dynasty. And I think if they're able to keep the core, Virat Kohli probably is going to play another season. He looks fit as ever. As long as they're able to keep the core, they're able to have good depth in case they're not able to get a full season out of certain players. Talking about Hazelwood, maybe even Krunal Pandya, he's aging as well. So if they're able to find depth, I think they may well three-peat next year. All right, so if we step back a bit to the playoffs and talk about this standout performance by who we like to call Baby Bav, Vaibhav Sooryavanshi, to his first playoffs of his career in the IPL, and he pulled out 290 something performances, both very different performances, but both important performances to Rajasthan, firstly winning the first game and then helping them even have a shot at the second.
Look, if there was another storyline after RCB winning for this IPL, it was definitely Vaibhav Sooryavanshi. He defied expectations that he built up last year. I think he had the most sixes this IPL, Orange Cap winner. As you mentioned, two very high scores, 90 plus scores in two back to back playoff games. and he hasn't even reached his 18th birthday. I think that's incredible. I think Rajasthan need to really take care of him because for sure, I'm sure there's a lot of franchises who want a player like that. They're going to get at least, if everything goes well, at least 12, 13, 14 years off of him. He's already putting bowlers like Bumrah, Hazlewood
Pat
under
Cummins.
pressure, Pat Cummins, Rabada, all under pressure. Incredible, incredible batting. He was the talk of the town, and even in the IPL final, as when the camera was not on the field of play, it was literally on him in the crowd, whether he was sitting beside Ganguly or sitting beside Jay Shaw, the camera was following him as well. He was the talk of the town, and he really made sure that, he cemented his name in this IPL season.
Yeah, we could easily be sitting here talking about him having 3 centuries in this IPL, maybe even 4. I'm pretty sure he missed another one in the league stage, getting out in the 80s or 90s. So it's just unbelievable, regardless of the age. The age, I think, just takes his performances to another level. But if you just leave the age aside, like he is playing like a prodigy, legend in the making. Like these performances are unheard of with players that are just starting their career. Again, I'm trying, even though I'm saying age, I'm trying to stay away from that. It's like when you have players coming through the ranks, getting their feet wet in professional or even international cricket, it's very rare for them to put up such consistent performances in such high pressure games and situations. And he's doing it with such an amount of maturity and calmness in the way he approaches his batting. Like when you watch him bat, he doesn't really have a lot like of expressions on his face. It's mostly a poker face. He looks relaxed, and it just feels like he's just enjoying every second of his batting.
No, no, very, very much so. He again, I think there's visuals of him before matches coming down to the pitch, visualizing. People were relating it to stuff that Matthew Hayden used to do before games, coming down to the pitch, actually, you know, grunting down in your stance, visualizing, shadow batting. He does seem very focused. Do you, or sorry, not do you? When do you put him on the international side?
I
That's a big
remember
question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I remember messaging you after the second 90 that he scored against in the eliminator against GT. And I was like, I've seen enough. I think he needs to be in the Indian team because to do it in the first one was okay. You could say, okay, he got lucky, whatever. He did it again and in a different circumstance.
Yeah.
He
Yep.
needed to stay at the crease. Wickets were falling around him. He still scored at a 200 strike rate. Unbelievable. And so just seeing that alone, I was like, okay, this kid has it in it. He has it in him to play different match situations. And I think that was the one thing that was missing from his performances throughout the IPL was staying there and being at the crease while wickets were falling under him, while Rajasthan were under the pump. Does he have it in him to sort of curtail his shot selection so that he can reduce the risk and stay at the crease? And he was able to do that while still scoring at 200 strike rate. And we all know that scoring at a 200 strike rate is considered high risk. And he was able to do that, pull up a performance that got Rajasthan to a target that was very much defendable.
Yeah, no, unreal sort of pace of batting, understanding situational awareness. We saw even throughout this IPL, it did seem like, the full Yorkers were working on him. I think there's some short pitch attempts as well. Some as who mentioned this? I think it was Zahir Khan who tweeted some body line bowling that was bowled against him. There was a lot of different styles of bowling bowled against him, but again, numbers speak. He was miles ahead of the most sixes in this IPL tournament. He was well ahead in the Orange Cap leadership as well, scoring, so many runs. And hey, I think he could have actually, to your point, Ron, scored. I don't know what the cat, I don't know what the record is for most centuries in an IPL, but if he was able to convert those 90s, which he should have, into hundreds, he would have definitely, I think, started itching that record as well.
Yeah, he wasn't able to get that done, but what he was able to do was grab that orange cap. And He was what, 30, 40 runs ahead of second place, scored over 700 runs in the season. Just a phenomenal performance. And we're talking about someone that had a great season last year. Wondered if he would be able to replicate that. He goes one better. What's up next? Like this is amazing. With all of this will come pressure, will
Yeah.
come the expectation of continued performance. And now it's going to be a matter of whether he can withstand under pressure and continue scoring consistently. And so far, he's stood up to that. So
I think
looking at
another
yeah, go ahead. Looking at coming back to captaincy, talking about Rajat Patidar, we talked a little bit about how he's entered folklore in IPL captaincy, if you will, with the likes of Rohit Sharma, MS Dhoni now being one of the only captains in this great league that has gone back to back. When you look at Paridar as a player, he's not a superstar. He's not consistently in the Indian team. He's gotten his chances. He failed to grasp it. He's he's a quintessential domestic player, and he's made captain of an iconic franchise, if you will, and he's been able to stand up to the pressure, not only with the way he handles the on field captaincy, but how he is off the field. And also, more importantly, his performances with the bat have been nothing short of exemplary this entire season, capped by that performance in the qualifier against GT, where he should have scored 100 in that game. But what a phenomenal performance. And he's just shown that captaincy doesn't have to just go to the stars. You can find someone who's just built for leadership, and he looks like that person.
Yeah, no, very much so. And him winning back to back is a testament of sort of what he brings to the table. He has been a domestic legend. I think he was able to win. I forgot what the trophy was. I think it was from with Madhya Pradesh. I want to say,
Was
but
it
he was able.
the Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy, the
I think it
T20?
was. I think it
Yeah.
was. I think it was. But able to sort of captaincy that again. It just goes to show. And I am. We could say here as well that I know we were talking about this earlier. This could be a trend in sort of franchise IPL cricket looking ahead. We do see some different types of captaincies coming in. For example, there was a lot of talk about Rahane captaining KKR. Now, he isn't the most flashy name. He's probably not going to sell the most jerseys, but I think if there was a captain who was able to turn that season around, it was him. Starting with how they started to basically, us writing them off even in this podcast to to really making a push for it, being probably the
One win
best team in
away.
the one win away, literally one win game. They ran out of games basically. But no, they to your point though, it was a sort of different type of captaincy. You see that maybe if you look at it on the flip, Mumbai Indians allowing sort of Hardik Pandya to captaincy. He is that quote unquote star, maybe selling the most jerseys now. But has he been the best tactically for Mumbai? Has he been able to perform? I think those questions are coming to play. I think now looking forward, where in the next season where where you could see, I would say, a musical chairs of captaincy or captaincy opening up. I think you'll definitely see maybe a push towards more people who are able to perform or are able to lead in the domestic circuit. You may see that sort of ability to be given because sometimes there was that concern of could domestic sort of captains lead international players? Could they captain a Hazelwood? Could they captain a Phil Salt? Right? I think maybe now with the way that the game is going and how Rajat Patidar was able to perform, he kind of showed that no, 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 a leader is a leader, no matter where he's played or sort of what level.
Another great example is Riyan Parag for Rajasthan
Yes.
Royals. He's a domestic player. Yeah, he also got some caps with India, but he's not a consistent India player. He's another domestic player that did well domestically, won trophies domestically, showed his captaincy prowess with his team. I believe it's Assam, and he's now leading Rajasthan Royals, and he done a superb job. Finished top four, finished top three, if you will, because they made it to the eliminator or past the eliminator, I should say. So that's another great example of a domestic or a player picked for his ability to lead other teams and doing well as a leader. And then on the flip side, you gave your example of Hardik Pandya. Another couple examples there, Rishabh Pant, who just
Mm.
recently stepped down as LSG captain. I think it's becoming more and more well known in the cricketing world that he doesn't have it as a captaincy, and you feel like he got captaincy because he's a quote unquote star in the Indian team, plays every format, has a lot of experience, but not so much as a captain in India. And because he plays so much with India, he doesn't play a lot of domestic cricket, which means he's probably not leading his domestic teams as much as some of the other names that we just mentioned. And then couple that with the fact that you pick him over an Aiden Markram, over a Mitch Marsh, proven captains. So you can see that clearly Punt wasn't necessarily picked for his tactical prowess. And then another example is Akshar Patel with DC. I don't know if he's been captaining his domestic domestic teams. Again, a star, if you will. He plays all formats for India, lots of experience, definitely deserves to be captain from the amount of experience that he has. But I think we're seeing more and more. It's one thing to be experienced as a player, and it's one thing to be experienced as a captain. And we're starting to see the starting to see that the captains that are doing well are the ones who are tactically very sound and know how to lead.
That's a very good point. Very good point. I think even if you look at just isolating some of the foreign players we have, or especially looking ahead now, I think just the way the IPL is set up, I think from a foreign player being a captain of an IPL team, I think because of the trend now going towards more or being more open towards players with sort of that leadership skills, I think in order for a foreign player to get captaincy in the IPL, they must be captain of their national side. It's because I think the IPL will likely only choose superstar foreign players just because they can only choose so many. So I think in order for that to happen, you'll see sort of the pack Cummins can still continue to lead, right? And let's not forget David Warner was, I think, the vice captain of the Test side for a number of years as well for Australia. So he was obviously a success in Hyderabad. I think you'll continue seeing what foreign players who've proven to be real captains for their national side, given those opportunities in the IPL. But they probably may not go for a decent player who's maybe a captain of whatever Shield team won that year in Australia.
One argument I could see being made for giving Indian players captaincy is probably to also unearth the next captain for Team India. We know Team India may be going through a transition with a few players with their T20 team who are aging. Sky is one of them. And we may see, I'm sorry, that may be the reason why Rishabh Pant's given captaincy, Akshar Patel's given captaincy, so that so that management can have a group of players or leaders to pick from with regards to, okay, who's the best captain amongst these? That could be an argument that I could see why some of the, because the Rishabh Pant one didn't make sense to me with Markram and Mitch Marsh at the team. And then another argument that came to mind is also being able to lead the Indian players, the even the uncapped Indian players, the younger Indian players. A lot of the Indian players coming in and playing the IPL, because of how big the game has gotten in India, you have a lot of players being picked out of nowhere in India, cities and towns, and forget that, villages that you haven't even heard of, where players are coming from that probably would resonate more with a person that is from their culture than a person that is not from their culture. One of the main things I would say is the ability to speak English as well. Some of the domestic players, nothing against them, but they're not able to speak English. So I wonder how much of an impact that makes when you select your captain, right? You'd want someone would be able to speak to them, understand where they're coming from. So maybe that has a lot to do with why there's a lot more Indian captains now than they used to be in the past.
No, that's a very good point. Very good point. Obviously, you do have that a lot. more volume of domestic players, players from the Indian side. So you should, to your right point, people who get them, people who understand them, that just might be sort of how you get best out of a squad. Now, sort of switching gears here, looking at GT. Okay, GT, what was it? 3 finals in the last 5 years, but only won once. So obviously getting runners up twice, being bridesmaid twice. Are they now what people are calling online the new RCB? What's going on?
Well, I don't know if they're the new RCB simply because they won the first final that they got in. So you got to give them credit there. And we can't sleep over the fact that they've reached 3 finals in 5 years with 2 different captains. So different teams, if you will, different managements as well. So definitely have a good culture being built there in GT. And to do it as a new franchise is amazing. I don't think we've seen that with any of the other franchises. We've seen them done over a period of time, but to do it in 5 years, the first 5 years of existence as a franchise, I think is unheard of, and it's pretty amazing that they've been able to do that. And yeah, it sucks that they lost two finals out of the three, but again, they won one. And it goes back to that debate. We see this on other sports too. And I know when I talk about other sports, I tend to reference to basketball, partly because I follow some of it. With that argument is also made with someone like a LeBron James, who's made so many finals, but they say, but he hasn't won all his finals. He's only won 4 or 5 or whatever the number he's won. But he's still been able to make all those finals, which is not easy to do consistently. You could say that about CSK. I don't know the stat in front of me, but CSK has reached they've lost a lot of finals as much as they've won. And I think being able to be in a final should be respected. I feel like as a society, we don't put as much respect on that. Being able to compete in the biggest game of that particular sport or of that particular league, I think speaks volumes to your culture as a team, your selections, your performances that you're able to get out of your players, the leadership that you've built not only at the team level but on the management side, on the execution side, on the business side of things. I think we need to give more credit to teams that are able to consistently finish at the top of leagues in any sport, and regardless of whether you win the championship or not.
No, you raised some really good points, and I'm actually going to reference something you said earlier in reference to RCB, but I'll say for GT, they have a winning culture. Them winning the first title has, I think, instilled in them that they are able to win. They have the formula. They're able to figure it out. And let's not forget who is leading this team. Not from a captaincy standpoint. Obviously, Gill, give him his flowers. I think he's overshot the capability of this team. I think this team on paper did not look the best, but I think he was able to basically make it due to what he has, and basically brought him to the final. But I think who we need to give credit to is Ashish Nehra. This guy being the coach of Gujarat, a lot of these titles, so the one title, the multiple finals, the performances, the trust in players, we kind of see, obviously, in the media, but definitely, just knowing who Ashish Nair is, I think he has that dressing room in good shape. I think it's super important. And yeah, to your point, you got to give them flowers. They one have a winning mentality, and two, it does seem like it's not a LSG sort of dressing room. The team is all for one. They know how to win. They have experienced players. So yeah, I think GT is sort of one of those teams that obviously is still pretty new to the IPL. But hey, if they win a title anytime soon, you maybe bring the big three, aka Mumbai, CSK, and RCB. You may have to bring that to a big four. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we're already there with GT. I think a couple more finals, and we're talking about them being one of the greatest franchises in this league. And they're still in the infancy of their career as a franchise, if you will, right? They just got to figure out that middle order. That's what they got. They've definitely figured out the bowling. They got a solid top order. All they're missing is probably one, maybe two solid Indian or foreign batters in that middle to lower order that can sort of be there when the top order fails.
Totally agree.
Awesome. Let's get into some rapid fires to wrap off this final finale episode of the IPL 2026. So, first rapid fire question. Who is your player of the tournament?
It's an easy one. I don't know if I should go for the easy answer, but I'm gonna go for it. It's Vaibhav. It has to be. It was his season. You gotta give it to him. And even wearing an orange cap today.
All right, mine is Bhuvi K, Bhuvaneshwar
Hey,
Kumar. I think a lot of people wrote him off. He missed purple cap by 1 wicket, would have been his third purple cap as an IPL player, which is unheard of. I think the most is two, shared by Bhuvi K and Rabada as well. Shout out to him for getting purple cap, but that is my player of the tournament, Bhuvi K. Moment of the season. What was
I'll let
your
you
moment
answer.
of all right, all right. My moment of the season. I gotta think about this one. So
Should I just say mine? Because I know
yeah,
mine.
if you know yours, go for it.
Off the bat, Taran, how can I forget Sunil Narayan's super over? You cannot forget that. I remember him taking out Nicholas Puran's wickets and us obviously texting. Oh, I could not forget that moment. For me, that was T20 cricket. Unreal game. Let's not forget. Unreal game. But Sunil Narayan getting that wicket for unreal performance, Ryan.
All right, I'm gonna go with recency bias on this one. I'm gonna go with that six to finish the tournament, to go back to back. Virat Kohli hitting it, stuff of dreams, stuff of what they say destiny is. So I'm gonna go with that as my moment of the season.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Okay. Now, obviously, flipping it a little bit here. What was your biggest surprise of the season? Whether a team player, moment that no one saw coming, a surprise performance. I got one. I'll help you out. I'll let you. I got one. For me, again, I think maybe we undervalued him this entire podcast. But for me, Kunal Pandya's performance with the bat. Oh my gosh. What was the score? He's like one of the fastest 50s in the
And yeah.
yeah, from
Anytime they were 3 or 4 down, he was sent up the order and he put up runs.
dude, for sure. For me, it's Krunal Pandya. Again, you gotta give him his trophy, his flowers. How many titles does he have now? Two, three, four, five. I've lost count. A clutch player, but for me, I think his batting performances this tournament was unreal, unreal.
All right. So mine, now that I got a few seconds to think about, is the performance of SRH's bowling attack. I think that was one of the bowling attacks that we said looked a little weak, especially with Pat Cummins out in the first half of the season. They unearthed some talent. I remember they started the season with Harshal Patel, Jaidev Unadkat, couldn't find any rhythm, lost matches, chucked them out of the team, brought in two debutants. I'll never forget their debut. I think it was Praful Hinge who took three in his
Yeah,
debut over in the first over of the game. One of them being Vaibhav Sooryavanshi, who he got out, which if he turns out to be who everyone is saying, a prodigy and superstar, he can say that he got him out. And then just see the other guy, Saqib Hussain, as well, who had a phenomenal rest of the season. Praful Hinge fell off a bit, but Saqib Hussain had a phenomenal season, was trusted in the back overs. So that bowling attack for me was the surprise standout performers.
love to hear it. Love to hear it. Now, looking into the negative lens now, what was the most disappointing from your lens in this IPL? Whether a player, tournament moment? Again, for this one here, I already know my answer, but I'll let you go first.
I feel like we may be on the same page. I'm trying. Maybe the performance of MI Mumbai Indians.
Okay.
Bumrah, very surprising IPL from his standards. I think he didn't take a wicket until Mumbai were 6-7, almost halfway through the season, where he took his first wicket. The batting lineup just never got going. They sort of relied on individual performances. Tilak Varma was the sole performer for them. Although Ryan Rickelton had a moment, Quinton de Kock had a moment, but that's the thing. They had individual moments. They didn't really work well as a team, and which is why they ended up in the bottom half of the table. So that's my surprise disappointment, if you will.
Fair, fair. No, I definitely thought of Mumbai, but for me, what was disappointing this season was no Hala, no number 7, no MS Dhoni. I think I at least wanted a one performance, him walking out of bat, maybe give him 6 balls. Definitely wanted to see him this tournament. Will we see him next year? I don't know, but definitely disappointing not seeing him this season.
That is going to be a big question for next season. So, what's one thing that you would like to see change before IPL 2027? I think I know mine.
And then I need a few seconds. I need to think about this one.
All right, I'll go with mine. So, I feel the impact rules got to go. I think we need to go back to 11 versus 11, which I think will bring down the scores as well. We had too many games of 200 plus targets where not only were teams making 200 for fun, but they were chasing 200 for fun. And I think we need more competitiveness in the game. The games where the bowlers had something, there was a week of games where we saw great battles between bat and ball where we didn't have the 200 targets. We had the 160, 170, 180 targets, but it was fun to watch because there's something in there for the bowlers. We we need to see more spinners in the game. We didn't see as much of that in this IPL season. All the top performers of the purple cap were mostly faster bowlers, apart from maybe a Sunil Narayan. Rashid Khan, no one really talked about. Some of the other
Mhm.
spinners, no one really talked about. We had games where spinners were left out of the team. We need to see 11 versus 11, great competitiveness between bat and ball so that we can see better viewership as well, because that is something that dropped throughout the season.
No, that's a great joke. Great, 100 a great joke. For me, what I would change, and I guess looking at IPL 2027 is I'm not a big fan of the situation, I would say, halfway through the tournament where teams sometimes go away from their home ground. Where, they play games in, for example, Punjab playing in Dharamshala. I just feel like home advantage is a big thing. You should go to whatever city or state or whatever it is that the home team is at if you're away. I think you should keep it that way. You don't see, I know it's about expanding the game. It's about obviously, showcasing different states, IPL games. I'm all for that. Maybe do that for the playoffs. Don't
Which they
always
did.
don't always host it in Ahmedabad,
Yeah.
right? But I would definitely like to see that rule scrapped because I think one, you gotta give back to the home city. The city's invested in them, the owners are invested in the city. You gotta give it back to the home city, and, it's a home court advantage. You gotta stick with it. So, no, I definitely agree that maybe, you know, shy away from that, going to third party cities and stuff for games.
Just to go one layer deep on that, since we're on there, what are your thoughts on the team that reaches the team that wins the league, if you will, is number one. If they reach the final, they get to play the final at so what I mean to say is between the teams that reach the finals, whoever is the higher seed plays the final in their home ground.
I totally agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I think home court advantage, home field advantage is a thing, and teams should be rewarded with their performances in the season, how they rank. So no, I'm all for that. You got to go for that, and I think it'll add a different element. If Mumbai Indians is playing Chennai in Mumbai because they, were on top of the table, I think it's literally going to be a blockbuster. You're gonna go, you're watching that on TV, you're tuning in. Whereas if both of them are playing in maybe Dharamshala or Ahmedabad, it's like, come on. But if they're either team is playing at the Wankhede or Chinnaswamy, it's going to be a show.
But at the end of the day, as we all know, with the IPL, money talks, and we may just keep seeing games being played in Ahmedabad because you got 100,000 people that you can feed. More importantly, you got dollars that come in from 100,000 people. So IPL 2027, 1 year away, but it's going to be a fun one. Until then, we have lots of cricket in between that, starting with India versus Afghanistan, switching over formats, going to our favorite format, the test match. And it's going to be a fun time just being able to watch this great game being played in whites again.
Can't wait.
Until then, that stumps.